Okay, welcome back. This is the last lesson of this week, week 5. We're going to wrap everything up by talking about stress, trauma, and gene expression. So continuing to build kind of on our knowledge of epigenetics, right? So here's a little outline. All right, so let's get started. Today we explore how stress, especially chronic or traumatic stress, sends signals to your genes. And we've talked a little bit about this in our previous 2 lessons, and I know a lot of it might sound really complex, but here's the key message. How your body interprets your environment affects how your genes behave, right? That's it in a nutshell. So if your nervous system stays in survival mode, it may turn on genes that promote inflammation and fatigue or immune imbalance. But the good news is that pattern can change, right? It is changing because you're doing this work. So when you're under stress, the body releases cortisol. And short bursts are normal and adaptive, but with ongoing stress, cortisol stays high or eventually drops from burnout, disrupting the immune balance. It can also change gene expression by influencing inflammatory markers and how cells repair themselves. So that's why stress isn't just in your head, right? It has a real biological consequence on your body. Research shows that people with chronic stress have higher rates of autoimmune illness. We know that. Studies have linked PTSD, caregiver stress, and burnout to worsened symptoms in conditions of autoimmune, such as lupus and RA and MS. So chronic activation of the HPA axis, right, your body's stress response system, leads to immune dysregulation, and that shapes the gene activity related to inflammation. So trauma doesn't just affect our mood, right? It influences how our genes are expressed. And studies on Holocaust survivors and children of trauma survivors show epigenetic changes passed across generations, especially in genes that regulate stress hormones. It's amazing. Trauma may prime the body for hyperreactivity, but here's the key. Environments that promote safety and rest and connection can reverse these patterns, right? Like we were talking about before, you're not stuck. You're not stuck. This stuff is changeable. So ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, include things like neglect, abuse, witnessing violence, and there has been a strong correlation between high ACE scores linked to increased risk for autoimmune illness. Why? Because early stress shapes how your genes respond to the world. It can amplify the immune system's sensitivity, causing it to overreact even years later, right? That's why we're seeing a lot of this show up 10, 20, 30 years down the road. So understanding this brings compassion, not blame, for what your body has been carrying. And I want you to just take a moment, to really think about that, right? Like, what are some of the things that happened to you early in your life, right? Or through your teen years, or, while you were in college, that may be showing up now in your body, these ACEs that we've kind of carried in our emotional backpack. So every time that you practice regulation, whether that is through breathing or grounding or co-regulation or somatic experiencing, you are not just calming your mind. You are communicating safety to your genes, okay? This is so important. I'm going to say that again. You're communicating safety to your genes. You're changing how they turn on and off. So your nervous system starts to practice that down regulating of inflammatory pathways and promoting repair. And this is why consistency matters, right? Because it's not about fixing stress, it's about building a new biological rhythm. So research shows that regular practices of mindfulness and yoga and compassion-based therapy and relational healing, right, all the things we're doing, reduce expression of pro-inflammatory genes. And these practices activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which again is our rest and digest, right? It decreases cortisol in the body and helps to improve immune function. So again, even short practices done consistently change how your body reads its own DNA, right? That's pretty powerful. Really love this subject. So safety isn't just a feeling, right? It is actually a physiological state. So when your body feels safe, it restores balance. So co-regulation, being with someone or something that is very calming and attuned to you, helps signal your nervous system that like, hey, you don't have to be on guard. You don't have to be on high alert right now. It's safe to relax. And that in turn affects immune gene expression. And this is why healing often happens in safe and supportive relationships, not just in our solo work, right? Solo work's really, really important. But building safe connection with other people, also really important. So keep in mind that this doesn't just mean romantic relationships. I hear a lot of people in clinic that, say, but I'm not married or I'm not in a relationship. That's fine. You don't need a romantic partner to do this co-regulation. This can be done with a friend, with a therapist that you feel calm with. It can be done with your pet, anyone that you feel connected and that you recognize helps to calm your nervous system. So, be curious what that looks like for you. Can also be for some of us a very spiritual experience, that co-regulation with God or whatever you believe, right, can be really important. So let's consider a woman with Hashimoto's and a history of early trauma. She's tried elimination diets and medications with limited success. But when she began daily regulation work, starting with 5-minute grounding, some breath work, and somatic tracking, her flares reduced, her digestion improved, and her fatigue lifted. Her labs eventually stabilized, right? That's great news. Like, that's scientific proof this is working, it's changing. And why? Because she was no longer signaling constant threat to her genes. She was able to signal and communicate to her body that it was safe. It was safe to just exist and be present, right? And this is a true story. I did not make this up. This is someone who I actually worked with in clinic that I witnessed this happening to. So really powerful stuff here. So create your own toolkit of practices that tell your body this very important message of I'm safe, right? And this might include what we've been working up to this whole time. The maybe the 4x7x8 breathing. I really love that one. Some gentle movement, stretching. It can be weighted blankets, nature walks, journaling, meditation, mindfulness, music, or even scents. Like one of my favorite things to do when I'm feeling really kind of having a difficulty relaxing is rub some oils in my hands and just smell them and do some deep breathing, right? Be curious, whatever works for you. It's small, repeatable actions that are these powerful epigenetic medications. So, what's one practice that you can begin using every day, even for 2 minutes, right? Choose something that feels achievable and kind, not forced, right? Again, this is about listening to your body. So what works for one person might not be for you. I've worked with a lot of women in clinic that really love meditation, right? And some people hate it. It doesn't work well. They have a really hard time with it. That's fine. Do something else, right? Whatever works for you is perfectly okay. That's why I wanted to give you a lot of things to choose from. So make it feel something that resonates with you, that you feel comfortable doing, and you don't have to get it right? Like there's no wrong way to do it, but just do it. That's the most important thing, is just that you get started. And over time, your body is going to learn to trust this rhythm and process, and you'll get better at it, right? These are all just skills. So it's okay if you kind of suck at it at first, right? Mindfulness, I told you before, is one of the most helpful coping skills I ever learned. And in theory, it sounds really easy, right? You're just kind of orienting to the now, but it's really difficult. And I got frustrated the first couple of times I would try and do it, and my mind would wander back to the million things I had to do, or, ruminate on something weird I said when I was 15. So it's okay. There's room for that to happen, and you just come back and you try again, and you continue to build on these skills until you get better and better and better at it. And then you're really attuned to your body, and it's much easier. So let's close with this question. What message would I like my body to receive more often? And maybe that is that you're safe now, right? I think that's such a big one for those of us that have had a lot of chronic stress and trauma, is just you're safe, right? You're in control of your environment now. You have more power now in your life than you've ever had before, right? As you're building on these skills and techniques. So maybe just I'm safe now is what resonates with you. Or you're allowed to rest, right? That's a really good one too. Or telling yourself, I'm here with you, right? Whatever your message is, just speak it often, and speak it with kindness and with compassion, because your body is listening. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this week's lessons. This is, again, one of my favorite subjects to talk about. So I've really enjoyed sharing this information with you. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns or whatever, please feel free to reach out to me. I love talking about this stuff, even, outside of the designated videos and hours. But thanks for showing up for yourself. Thanks for being here with me today. And I'll look forward to seeing you in our week 6. We're halfway through. So I'll see you then. Thanks.